Hey guys, so today we are going to be going over four-step equations, and basically what that means is we are going to take everything we know about the distributive property and combining like terms and solving equations with variables on both sides, and we're going to put it all together. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. So with a four-step equation, there are four steps to go through. So the first one is to use the distributive property to remove parentheses. So the first thing we're going to do is check for parentheses. Then we're going to combine any like terms. Remember, all constants are like terms, and like terms are things that have the same variable attached to them. Okay, then we're going to do our normal step from two-step equations. We add or subtract the constant, and then we multiply or divide by the coefficient. So looking down here at these two example problems, if you have a set of grouping symbols, so grouping symbols just means parentheses. And if you have a set of them, you need to get rid of them by distributing whatever is immediately in front of them. So on this example problem, or this example problem here on the left, we have a -8, which we then distribute to 2 to get negative 16x, and then we then distribute to the -1 to get a positive 8. Then we get negative 16x equals 28, and we divide by our coefficient, which is a negative 16. So we have x equals negative 28 over 16, or negative 7 over 4. So same thing over here on the right side. We've got a 3 that we need to distribute. So we are going to take 3 times 3x, and that's going to give us 9x. And then 3 times negative 6, which is going to give us a negative 18. Then we go ahead and add 18 to both sides to undo that subtraction. So we get 36 equals 9x. Then we divide by 9 on both sides to get 4 equals x. So these take you through all the steps, but they don't really explicitly show all the math. So when I work through some examples later, you'll see where that math is worked out. So here, after you distribute, you will sometimes have like terms on the same side of the equal sign. If they are like terms and if they're on the same side of the equal sign, you need to go ahead and combine those before you try to do anything else. So here I have 5 equals 5m minus 23 plus 2m. So we see that 5m and 2m are like terms. So what we're going to do is combine those to get a much easier equation to work with. So now we've got 5 equals 7m minus 23. We are going to go ahead and add 23 to both sides to cancel out that subtraction. And we are going to get 28 equals 7m. To isolate m, we are going to undo this multiplication using division. So I'm going to divide by 7 on both sides to get 4 equals m. So same thing on the right side, guys. I have 11m minus 8 minus 6m equals 22. So I have a positive 11m and a negative 6m. So when I combine those, I get a positive 5m. So I have 5m minus 8 equals 22. To undo that subtraction, I'm going to add 8 to both sides, and I'm going to get 5m is equal to 30. And then to isolate m, I'm going to undo that multiplication by dividing both sides by 5. So I do 5m divided by 5 to get m, and I'm going to do 30 divided by 5 to get 6. So the next thing is just using both of these together. So I have 8n minus 2n minus 3. So I'm actually going to be distributing this negative. So that is going to give me negative 2n. When I do negative 1 times 2n, I get negative 2n. When I do a negative 1 times a negative 3, I get a positive 3. And so when you're distributing a negative, I want you to just think the kind of math you're doing really is you're taking the opposite, or you can think about it as doing like negative 1 times whatever. So it works the same way. So now I've got 8n minus 2n plus 3 equals 12. So 8n minus 2n gives me 6n. And I have 6n plus 3 equals 12. I'm going to subtract 3 on both sides to undo that addition. And I'm going to get that 6n is equal to 9. And then to isolate n, I'm going to undo that multiplication right there using division. So I'm going to do 6n divided by 6n divided by 6, which gives me n. And then I'm going to do 9 divided by 6, which you can write as 9/6, and then you should simplify to 3/2. So on the right side, I have n plus 5 times n minus 1 is equal to 7. I do 5 times n, which gives me 5n, and then 5 times -1, which gives me a -5. So now I'm going to combine like terms. So I have n plus 5n. And that is going to give me 6n, and my -5 stays the same. To get rid of that -5, I'm going to use addition to undo my subtraction and add 5 to both sides. So I'm going to do -5 plus +5, which gives me 0, and 7 plus 5, which gives me 12. Now to isolate n, I'm going to divide by I'm going to divide by 6 on both sides. So 6n over 6 is going to give me n, and 12 over 6 is going to give me 2. So I'll get n equals 2 for my answer. So here we're just doing the same thing. These are just 2 more example problems. I am not going to walk through these because we are going to walk through some examples together, but I would recommend looking over this page. It's a good set of example problems, but I don't want this video to be super long, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the ones I'm working out. So here we've got some multi-step equations. So on number 1, I'm going to be looking for like terms. So I'm going to start with 12x. And I see that I have a 7x down here. So I have a positive 12x and a negative 7x, which are going to combine to give me 5x. And I keep the 23 and the 68 the same. Now I have a 2-step equation. So I'm going to undo that addition. And I'm going to use subtraction on both sides. So I'm going to subtract 23 from both sides. And that is going to give me 5x is equal to 45 because my 23s cancel each other out. Now to get x by itself, I'm going to divide by 5 on both sides to undo my multiplication. And that's going to give me x is equal to 9. I'm going to do the same thing in number 2. I'm going to look for like terms again. So I'm going to start and see that I have 19x. And I'm just going to see if I can find another x, which I can. So I have 19x and a positive 8x. So I'm going to add them together since they're both positive. And that is going to give me 27x. So I have 27x plus 59 is equal to 5. So I'm going to go ahead and undo that addition by subtracting a 59 from both sides. So now I'm going to be left with 27x. My 59s will cancel out, and they are going to be equal to negative 54. So now to get x by itself, I'm going to divide on both sides by 27 to undo that multiplication. I'm going to get x is equal to negative 2. So here I'm going to start. I see I've got 21x. I'm going to look and see if I have anything else. I've got a negative 29x. So I have like terms. I'm going to combine those together. So 21 plus negative 29 is going to give me negative 8x. So I have negative 8x now plus 75 is equal to 19. So just like we normally solve a two-step equation, I'm going to undo that addition using subtraction as my first step. And I'm going to subtract 75 from both sides so that my equation is balanced. My 75s cancel out, and I am left with negative 8x is equal to negative 56. So now to get x by itself, I'm going to undo my multiplication and divide by negative 8 on both sides. And that is going to give me x is equal to a positive 7. So number 4 is a little different. If you look, I have parentheses. So I'm going to go ahead and use the distributive property as my first step. So that means I'm going to take that negative 4 and I'm going to multiply everything in the parentheses by that negative 4. So I'm going to do negative 4 times 5x. And then I'm going to do negative 4 times a negative 2. Because remember, we have to multiply both pieces inside those parentheses. So I'm going to get negative 20x and a positive 8. So I'm going to go ahead and just rewrite my equation with those new numbers. So I've got negative 20x plus 8 plus 7 equals negative 5. So I do have like terms here. They might look a little different than normal, but my two constants, that positive 8 and that positive 7, are actually like terms. So I can combine those together to get negative 20x plus 15 is equal to negative 5. So now to get rid of that 15, I'm going to subtract a 15 on both sides to undo that addition. And I'm going to actually get negative 20x is equal to negative 20. So now to get x by itself, I'm going to undo this multiplication with division and divide both sides by negative 20. And I'm going to get x is equal to 1. So looking at 15, the first thing I check is if I need to distribute. And I see I have parentheses, which means I do. So I'm going to take that 3 and distribute it to everything inside the parentheses. So I'm going to take 3 times 2x and 3 times negative 9. That is going to give me 6x and negative 27. So I'm just going to rewrite my equation with my new distributed numbers, and I'm going to get 15 plus 6x minus 27 is equal to 60. So now I'm going to check for like terms. I don't see any other x's in there. So I know that my 6x is not going to have any like terms. So I'll start with my 15. And I do have another constant. It's a negative 27. So I'm going to combine those. So I'm going to keep my 6x. And 15 plus negative 27 is negative 12. So I have 6x minus 12 equals 60. I'm going to add 12 on both sides to undo that subtraction. And I'm going to be left with 6x is equal to 72. So now to get x by itself, I'm going to undo this multiplication using division. And I'm going to get x is equal to 12. So moving to number 6, I need to check to see if I need to distribute. And I see I have parentheses, which means I do. So I'm going to take this -5 and I'm going to distribute it to my 3x and my positive 10. So I have -5 times 3x, and I have -5 times 10. So I'm going to get -15x, and I'm going to get -50. So now I'm going to rewrite my equation now that I've distributed, and I'm going to have 4x minus 15x minus 50 is equal to 126. I'm then going to try to combine any like terms. So I see 4x, and I'm going to check to see if my x has any like terms. So if I have any other x's here. And I do. I've got a -15x. So I'm going to combine those. So positive 4 plus -15 is -11. So I have -11x minus 50 is equal to 126. So to get rid of that -50, I'm going to use addition to cancel out my subtraction, and I'm going to add 50 to both sides. Those will cancel out to equal 0. And I have -11x is equal to 176. To get x by itself, I'm then going to divide by my coefficient, which in this case is -11. And not 11x, sorry, just -11. And I'm going to do this on both sides, so my equation is balanced. I'm going to be left with just x on the left, and I'll be left with -16 on the right to get x is equal to -16. On number 7, I'm going to see if I need to distribute. I see I have parentheses, which means I do. But I'm actually only distributing a negative sign this time, which means I'm taking the opposite of -6 and the opposite of +3, or multiplying them by -1. Those are the same thing. So I multiply -1 times 6x to get -6x, and -1 times 3 to get -3. So I'm going to rewrite now that I've distributed. And I'm going to get -6x minus 3 plus 17 is equal to -16. So I'm going to check for like terms. I don't see any other x's, so my -6x is not going to have any like terms. So now I'm going to check to see if I have any like terms with my constants. So I see I've got a -3, and it has no variable, and neither does my plus 17. So I can combine those. So -3 plus 17 gives me 14. So I have -6x plus 14 equals -16. I'm then going to subtract 14 from both sides to undo the addition. And I'm going to get -6x is equal to -30. To get x by itself, I'm going to undo this multiplication with division and divide by -6 on both sides. I'll be left with x on the left and a +5 on the right, giving me the answer x is equal to +5. On number 8, I'm going to check if I need to distribute, and I have parentheses, so I do. And the same thing as last time, I'm just distributing a negative. So I'm going to do -1 times 2x, or the opposite of 2x, and -1 times 7, or the opposite of 7. This is going to give me -2x and a -7. So now I'm going to rewrite since I've distributed, and I have 15 minus 2x minus 7 is equal to 14. So I'm going to check for like terms. My 2x doesn't have any, but my 15 and my -7 are like terms. So I leave my -2x the same, and 15 minus 7 is 8. And so I've got -2x plus 8 is equal to 14. And I'm going to subtract 8 on both sides to undo that addition. And my 8s will cancel out, so I'll be left with -2x equals 6. Now to get to get x by itself, I'm going to divide by -2 on both sides. And I end up getting x is equal to -3. So guys, that is our video on 4-step equations. As always, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me or rewatch this video as many times as you need. I am looking forward to seeing all of you in our lives this week. Have a good one.